Hello and welcome everyone to Women's Biz Global Podcast. It is a podcast where we empower and inspire women around the world in business to dream big and lead boldly and create lasting impact. That's what it's all about, doing it for a reason, right? Making your life matter and enjoying the ride along the way. I am your host, Annie Gibbins, and today we have a real powerhouse guest joining us. Her name is Ellen Tyler, for those of you who have not yet met her. She's an expert coach who helps entrepreneurs stop spinning their wheels and start creating freedom and success, which we all deserve, right? But sometimes we can just get bogged down. And so I'm really looking forward to chatting with Ellen today. She's going to be sharing the secrets behind those little small shifts that lead to big results, the mindset that you have to have that's required to scale with purpose, and also some actionable tips, which I always love, to help you reclaim your time and step into more of a confident CEO of your own self, of your own business, of your own life. It's going to be super cool. So first of all, welcome to the program, Ellen.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. So excited.
It's great to have you here, and I'm also super pumped to swing this from a financial perspective, because I know that our listeners love it when I have a guest on who is a finance expert, and so we're going to have so much to share. I'd love to start with why entrepreneurs feel stuck, right? We often just get to a stage and go, oh, I don't know what to do next. And it just fries your brain, right? You've worked for so many business owners, and we know that they're working hard, but what is the most common reason you find that the entrepreneurs just hit a plateau, and what do they need to do to break free?
So, and it's a really great question, because one of the things they don't really think about before they take that leap. So first and foremost is to congratulate anyone who took the leap, because that's a huge decision and commitment. But sometimes what we forget is that we now have every single position that we have to cover, which means marketing and sales and operations and admin, and we forget that. So we get bogged down by the overwhelm. Becomes overwhelming until we can get help. Yeah. And so that's the first step. It really is. The first time I get to chat with someone is because of that.
It's because, and I find it's also in conversations I have, and even noticing myself, it's because many of us start because we're passionate about something. That's our obsession. That's our dream. And so you get the overwhelm when the reality of business kicks in, right? It's like, oh, marketing, I'm not so great at that. Or finance, oh my gosh, I'd forgotten to think about my cash flow. I got so excited about something coming in 3 months' time. Those sorts of things. So if that's you, listener, I tell you what, you are actually very, very normal. It happens to all of us. And so therefore you focus on the power of the small shifts, I'll call it. You often talk about small shifts lead to big results. So what sort of specific examples can you share that, what does that look like on a day-to-day basis in business?
So one of the tips that I find extremely helpful, and it doesn't matter if it's you're a small business or you're running a 7-figure business, it is to really know every single day what you need to do. And that can get lost in the muck of all of that. And so the first question really becomes, past the part that this is the passion and this is why I want to do this, it's what do I know I need to do that gets me closer to helping so many more people? Because most people who start their entrepreneur journey, it's because of how they want to help. And it signals to our brain, oh, there's things I should do, which will allow me to reach more people. So like for me, where I am, it's the end of the day. End of the day, write down the 6 things you need to do tomorrow that grow the business. So for some people, it might be, I need to have a presence and a brand on social media, or it might be that I have to really start networking and understanding how to meet people and have conversations. So you write down the 6, and then the biggest game changer, because we tend to write down, the first thing is something we like to do. Something we like to do is not always the most important one out of the 6 to start doing. And it's really to just sit back and honestly look at that list and reorder it in order of importance. Because otherwise, those things that we tend to not like to do are always going to stay at the bottom, and they're never going to get complete. So the list doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to get all 6 done. Because just depending on if I need to wait for someone or that, but it just gives me order to how I'm starting my day. And then at the end of the week, just assess how you did with that. And are there any subtle improvements that you can make the next week? Very simple.
Very simple, but once again, a habit, right? It's one of those habits that sometimes when you've had that day and you're just like, the last thing I'm going to do is write more lists. I'm done, I'm fried. And it's actually sort of training yourself to make that a habit. That I love that. It's like, even if you're not going to operationalize it, you're not going to do it, write 6 things. It's not that hard to actually, at the end of the day, write 6 things. It's one of those principles, right? Once you start doing it every day, they'll be front of mind when you wake up in the morning. They'll be front of mind. The more you pop it into your brain, the more likely you are to action them. So all of our listeners, it's the opposite. It's the opposite. Often it's the opposite of what you naturally want to do. You start dreaming. The thing I want to do it more and more and more. And the other thing, it's like, oh, just bury that for another day. Hence, we have that principle in business that we say, eat frogs first, right? Like first thing in the morning, get that list of 6 out. And just go, right, what am I going to, prioritize? Really good advice. So it comes down to then a mindset and habits, focus, transitioning to that CEO mindset, I'll call it. So we're actually not just positive, because that can run out. You've got to be a lot more strategic and structured. But then in that business, entrepreneurs are wearing all those hats. It's not as if most people, you look at the big business and go, they've got departments and they've got people doing it. Our listeners are all doing it themselves, or might have outsourced 1 or 2 areas. So what sort of mindset shifts do you think helps people to go, I'm suddenly going to start showing up in that role of CEO in my own business, even if I'm just a solopreneur?
Yes. And it's actually a really important question, because it's to act as the CEO today. And like, I call myself Ellen 2.0, the Ellen at the end of 2025, who has the vision that I wrote down with what it's going to be. So the mindset really starts with that, is first and foremost to know what's going to be a really great year at the end of the year for 2025. Because if we don't know, then it's hard to hold the vision of what we need to do. And it's to understand the decisions need to come from that CEO image. And it's crafting it. What are you wearing? What are you doing? Where are you sitting? Can you smell the coffee? All of the senses will help us get into the feeling of 2025 has been an awesome year. It's been an amazing year for the business. I've accomplished this, but it's being able to create that scene. And then when you make decisions today, it's making it from that viewpoint. It is, I need to make the decisions as the CEO so I can become the CEO. And sometimes it sounds like it's a puzzle. It's not. It is self-image. I have to become the person that has the business that I'm growing. And it's, we always bounce the words around like mindset and all of that, but it really is, what's the picture of the person? Like, am I sitting around in yoga pants or am I hiring a stylist, which I always tell people, go do that as soon as you can. Because we don't realize, that's why even during all those 4 years of whatever you want to call it, when we were sitting here in sweats and everything, it messes with your mind.
Yeah.
Because wearing that and I'm not projecting that I'm the confident CEO of a 7-figure business, that's what I'm going to come across as. And then the mindset becomes, I'm still thinking the same way that caused the same problems. And you can't solve the problem with the same thinking.
I think that is such a brilliant answer, because I know this is an area that people go, oh, but, I don't want to fake it. I don't want to not be me. But it's very much actually just starting to show up as that person you want to be. It is who you are, but it's the confident version. So some of it may feel a little bit awkward, but that's it. Like, I've been a CEO for a very long time now, and that's it. You walk into the room and it's almost like this is an executive presence. They go, oh, the CEO's here. Or it's the language. I just say, oh, I'm so sorry I'm late, or I'm sorry I didn't, I don't know.
Don't ever say
it's always positive. It's like, so glad I'm here. We're going to have a great time. We've got plenty of time to get to these key strategy points today, or this or that. It's just the energy, tone, appreciation of where people fit in the strategy, why those people are there at that meeting or that time. It's a subtle shift, and I really encourage people who are listening in to go, I don't know how to do that, to reach out to myself or to Helen, because it's an area that once you nail that, you really start showing up in a different energy space with different levels of confidence, but different ability, because you're given that opportunity to use that ability that you have. And I think that's one of the frustration points for many of us, isn't it? That you go, I could have done that, and someone else took that moment, and you go, you start taking that moment. What's stopping you, right?
Always. The interesting thing about that, Annie, is that, and somebody's going to hear this and understand exactly what you said. If, no matter what they believe, God, the universe, Allah, puts an idea in your head,
yes,
you're supposed to do it.
Yes.
And I'll give an example. So a lot of times people will say, oh, I had an idea to write that book. And then the book shows up written by somebody else, just like you said. Because, and the way I look at it, if God gave me that idea to do and I didn't do it, he's not about to wait until Ellen gets off of her high horse and decides, oh, okay, maybe I will do it now, 20 years later. It's that, nope, the book's supposed to be out now. When I was in the financial world, I knew there should have been a book written from the perspective of women in finance. It's a great idea. I didn't write it, somebody else did.
And then if you're human, you'll go, they stole my idea. That was mine. I wanted to do that. And then, we call them the Gona people. Well, you were Gona, but you didn't. And it happens in business and in life. When our kids were young, I had 5 kids, and so many people, we'd talk about some little holiday we'd taken them on, not expensive, just, adventurous. Yes. People would say, I want to do that. I want to do that. And you're like, well, why don't you? You've got to actually step up, go, stop them being dreams. How do we operationalize them? Now, you have had some seriously legendary mentors, Ellen. I'm super jealous myself. You've been mentored by Bob Proctor and Sandy Gallagher. Oh my gosh, 2 icons in the whole space of personal growth. So what sort of lessons did you learn from them that continues to help you guide others in the work that you do today, right? Because we don't always have to reinvent the wheel. I mean, their truths can keep us going for a very long time.
Yep. And I love that you said that. So the first thing I would say, what I learned is people should just jump way before they're ready. Like, just jump. We have no clue what it's going to look like, but we only get one chance here. We get one chance to live the life that we want to live. And I also know that when I was presented that opportunity, look, I spent decades in financial services. I am really good in that world. But it was just the right opportunity. And the question was, okay, if I am going to help coach and help consult and work with people, I'm going to work with the best of the best, which was Bob. And during the time that I was able to be mentored by him, because coming up to 3 years that he transitioned out of the physical, it was just to soak up everything that he believed, which is lead with value. We tell everybody what we do. It's not a secret. What I learned is that we should always be studying ourselves each and every day. It doesn't stop. For those people that think it's like school and work, I think I'm going to start taking videos of clients when I tell them, no, you don't get the weekend off. And Bob studied every single day of his life. In fact, that was one of the greatest ideas that I got from him. And he wanted to do this work until he was boots up, which is what he did. He did a seminar in December, and he transitioned from physical to non-physical in February. And so when I looked at that, I thought, nope, that's me. Because I believe that being of service and bringing value, it's not like you just stop doing this. You might just do it in a different way.
Exactly. And some people want to do it to the day they die, and other people don't. We've all got our own mix of what that looks like. I think by being mentored by such legends, it's got to have influenced the way you align business with life goals. And I think that's a challenge for most of us, right? Getting the balance right. You know, success in business is about building the business that works for you, not the other way around. And many entrepreneurs go, oh my gosh, my ROI on this is crazy bad, because you're spending a zillion hours for not much, whereas you actually go into business so that you have something that's going to work for you. So you can have multiple businesses, or you can actually just have more lifestyle. How can entrepreneurs start aligning their business with those personal values and goals? You said before, you want to be upfront with your vision and your purpose.
Right.
How do they do that? Can you give them some tips?
Sure. I think the first thing is to understand work and life aren't separate.
Yeah.
We talk about work-life balance. No, you should love your work, so you're not racing to leave it to get to a life that you think is why you're really here. But the first thing is to really understand everybody here has a purpose. It's to know your purpose. And if anyone needs help with that, we have all sorts of resources, but it really is, why do you think you're here? And then how do you want to deliver it? And as you said just a moment ago, it doesn't mean working 40, 60, 80 hours a week. I could be a volunteer at an animal shelter, which I can't because I have too many animals and they won't let me. But if that's a cause that I believe in, it's to understand, if you know your purpose and the vision of how you deliver it every single day when you wake up, work doesn't become work.
Yes.
And so I would encourage everyone to just sit a bit with that. The goals come naturally from that. They're naturally let out of vision. And I had to answer this a lot, because when I left financial services, sometimes people can't put that all together. Like, how does this make sense that you were helping people on the financial side and now you're not? I said, my purpose never changed. The vision is how you deliver your purpose. My purpose always is to help and encourage family, friends, clients to be able to live the best life. And if they need help understanding the financial part of, am I going to have enough money, or what do I need to do? Or I need to hire a coach so I can understand how to study myself so that I can have a really great way of understanding we're always working on the goals. It was just the vision. All that changed was the vision. How am I delivering it? One was in financial services, one is in coaching. And that's really, it's really just knowing their why.
Yeah. Exactly. That's what I'm hearing in that, because that's right. If you can be in a whole space, people go, how did you go from, in your case, financial services to business and life coaching? And you kind of go, yeah, well, but that's kind of irrelevant. It's the basics. It's the why you do it, and then it will come together. And I think that's the key point, isn't it? To overcome the overwhelm, to start scaling with purpose. You can't do that if you actually haven't gone back to grassroots for yourself and thought, well, why am I even doing this? What am I wanting to achieve? How am I going to measure my success? Then that's why people feel the whole process very daunting and overwhelming, isn't it? Because they haven't actually nutted down, you know, how many hours they want to work, what their business will look like, and maybe who they need to help them in the process.
Yep. And the other elephant in the room, and this is because this is for women, we think we're not worth that kind of money. So we might know our why, but somewhere in there is, oh, how can I charge 7 figures? How can I do this? How can I charge? And the money, no matter what the service, is just the representation of the value. But it's why when I knew that I needed to do this work, it is because we have glass ceilings in our head as women. And so that even those that are pretty successful still deal with that voice in their head. And we all have voices in our head. They're just not always friendly and nice because it's the doubt and the worry and the anxiety. And so that coupled with, even though if they have a big why, if you can imagine this, they're competing.
Yes. They'll settle quicker, won't they? So that's that narrative in your head. If someone believes that they're going to honor their worth and say, you know what, I might cost X, but your return, you know, all the clients that I work with, you know, will end up doubling it or tripling that in a short period of time, then you're going to lead with that, going, well, most people would want to go to this step because it's worth it for them, whereas other people go, oh yeah, I've got my 3 tiers of pricing, and then they'll settle very quickly. They'll immediately then go to the second or the third, and it's because they don't really believe in their own wealth, or that they don't truly believe in their value, or they don't believe that what is it that other people would judge them for it? Other people think, who are they? What is that block for you from your perspective?
Most of our blocks come from us growing up between the ages of 0 and 9. So we don't really know what it is, but it could be as simple as when you're in school and a teacher said, Ellen, you're not great at spelling. We're sponges to everything that goes on around us. And so there's a little bit of self-doubt and self-worth in there from just what we've heard. And the work really is, we don't get rid of those. It's just, how do I replace it? Because a belief is just a decision.
Yes.
It's not, and people, again, that's another one that gets a little bit lost in the mix, is that they go, but I have a belief. And it's like, but is it true? So, you know, I used to tell the story for a long time because I went to school in a big university in the Midwest, and they did an exchange program to England. First year, my roommate was in journalism. She wanted to go. I got invited to come. I was in a science and just changed my major. I didn't like English in high school. It was not my favorite subject. And I went and I got all A's in journalism. But because my paradigm was like, how the heck did this happen? You're not good at English.
Yes.
It's how do you wrap that story so I could soothe that paradigm without having chaos erupt with, are you sure you're in the right major?
I know, right? Because if you don't have that moment of stopping and challenging it, then you will live that path, right?
And so the story I told was that it was the first year that they did this journalism exchange program, and so they must have been easy on us. No, that is not true. And so we layer in stories like that so that we can soothe ourselves, and rather than just go, no, that belief wasn't true. And I can decide to come up with a new belief.
Yes. Oh, I tell you what, that's a gold nugget, everyone. Write that down. Start challenging your beliefs. You have the power to change those beliefs, to start believing that most things we inherit are a belief of someone else about us, and it usually reflects themselves, right? We'd be on the same page there. So, you know, I was the same. I was told I wouldn't be good at business and don't have a financial brain. And now I'm a Grand Slam Award winner for women in business and run multi-organizations. It's crazy what someone decides you can and can't do. And when we entertain and we reinforce it, we go down that path, and we actually have that time, don't we, Ellen, that we can actually go, you know what? That's right. What if that's not true? What if I'm going to go, well, you know what? Let's just make it a game. Let's see if I can prove that wrong. And you will be floored what you can do. I'd love you to finish up with some, real rapid fire growth tips, right? So, what quick tips can you help entrepreneurs who want to, should they grow or scale their business? That's probably a question, first of all. I'm all into the scale because I want to get more benefit than effort. But how can they do that while wanting their freedom, right? Freedom's my number one value in life. And I know a lot of people, it's a strong magnet. So we want that freedom. We want that freedom to live and breathe and do the things that we want, but we also want to nail and grow and scale as quick as possible. Yeah. What's your top tips?
Well, first of all, those are beliefs that they have. They believe they have to work hard or more hours to scale a business so that they don't have the freedom. And so what I would probably lead with is that there's this, it's a great formula. A gentleman by the name of David Bayer wrote a book called A Changed Mind. And out of the whole thing, this one little formula is what I thought was brilliant. And it is, how do you change your belief? So we could go with, I want to scale my business, but I'm going to have to work for, 80 hours a week to double and triple my business. Usually I'll use something like sales, like I suck at sales, I'm horrible at sales. So what's the current belief around something that you're trying to do? You'll uncover pretty good. So just like you said, I can't scale. People who, do 7-8 figures must be putting in 80 hours a week. So we'll go, if that's the belief, now we need to change it because that is not going to serve us at all. And so the framework is, and it's at the beginning. So if you remember, a belief is just a decision. So now we're going to decide to change it. And it is, what evidence do I have that this new belief, Ellen is great at sales, is true? What evidence do I have that this new belief, it's easy to scale a business working part-time hours, is true?
Yeah.
Then the work is to look and find the evidence. And so let's go with the sales, because for someone, if they say I'm horrible at sales, but yet they sold something last month or whatever, you go, what evidence do I have? Oh, I did sell something last month. So you look for your evidence, and sometimes we have to go out of our sphere, and it might sound like this. Like, we have some great coaches around the world, and I would sit there and go, if Mindy can sell $100,000 in an hour, so can I. That really is, that's another little tip and technique, is like, if they can do it, I can do it.
Yes. It's been done before by someone, you can do it.
Right. And so all of that helps shift that belief. But at the end, it really is, if they can do it, I can do it. And I have to, and if I know, I wrap it with, I know that my beliefs shape my reality.
Yes.
And then I'll work with that every single day. They should work with that every day until it's a belief.
Fantastic top tips. I can't believe how quickly our time has gone. For our listeners, I tell you what, your beliefs do shape your reality. You've got to believe it to achieve it, is what I walk around saying. I've got to believe it to achieve it. So actually, do I believe it, or am I saying it and am I doubting it? I've got to get myself into that position of mindset, leaning forward, leaning into it, and then start getting confirmation bias on the things that are true or the things that I do want to be better at. And so I start focusing that area. So those of you who've listened in, there's been so many gold nuggets in this conversation with Ellen today. I really want you to take stock of, writing down. Just get a little pen and paper and just go, write down, take that tip from Ellen. At the end of every day, what 6 things could be frustrating you, could you be doing better, you might need help with. Really start writing them down. If you write the same things down 3 days in a row, you probably need to chat to someone, and we are available to you. But it'll just start putting it in your mindset and really step up, right? Step up and start owning that position as CEO of your own life, of your own business. We no longer need to apologize we apologize too much. And now is our time to actually go, yep, I'm going to just do this now. And I'm going to do it as well as saying someone else has done it, so I can do it. Do it your way.
Yep.
Do it their way to start, look and learn. And then the ones who are real powerhouses, then start tweaking it. And that's a whole other session, which I would love to chat about, personal branding, really stepping into doing it your own way. Fantastic. How can people contact you, Ellen?
Well, I'm easy to find on LinkedIn, Ellen Tyler. I'm ellentylercoaching.com. It's really easy to find me.
Super easy. I'll pop that in our show notes. So those of you who, you might be on LinkedIn Live, you might be on YouTube, you might be on Spotify, all of our different platforms. Myself via Women's Biz Global, and Ellen, we would love to chat with you if you've got any other questions. Also pop your questions in the chat wherever you're watching, because we'll be around. We would love to answer them. We just want you to have a bigger, bolder, braver, better day moving forward, and just really believe that, all things are possible. We just step into it. Thanks so much for joining me today, Ellen.
Thanks, Annie.
Are you seeking a leading Australian podcast that dives deep into the stories and insights of extraordinary women? The Women's Biz Podcast is your go-to destination for empowering conversations that spark inspiration. With Women's Biz Podcast, you'll be part of a community that celebrates and amplifies women's voices. So join us in this journey of discovery, where every episode leaves you more informed and inspired. Let's embark on this empowering adventure together. Subscribe now to your preferred platform.